Good day, Desert Wayfarers. Continuing on with a more detailed look at the gear that I carry out of the desert. So, what's in my kit? So, this is the bare minimum that I carry on a daily basis or whenever I go out for either a long walk, a multi day, if I'm going to spend the night out there, or just a short 1 2 hour walk out into the desert. These are the things that I kind of always have with me. They're pre-packed, they're in a bag, and I can just grab and go. So starting kind of with toiletries, because that's always an important thing that you need to think about when you're out in the desert. So I carry wet wipes, okay, because dry toilet paper is just not going to cut it out there. And it has the added benefit of moisture. You can use these are, multifunctioning things. You can use them to clean yourself all over, hands, feet, ears, because they're great for getting rid of sand. So I always carry wet wipes with me, and like I say, uh, I find they're super important to have. Uh, Additionally to that, I have zinc oxide. Now, as you guys have known, I've talked about in the past that sunscreen just doesn't work out here. There is no point in carrying SPF sunscreen out here, 50, whatever. It's going to wash off, sand's going to stick to it. So if you do need to protect yourself from the sun, clothing is the best way, but mineral based sun block. This is a 100% sunblock. Okay, this is zinc oxide. Right, so prefer you carry this than regular old sunscreen. Uh, your lips are going to get chapped. Uh, any kind of lip balm. This is Carmex. Will work well. So always have lip balm. Lighter, small lighter. You don't need anything big. Okay, just a small lighter. Then wrapped around this letter is kind of stretchy medical tape. That should take care of most of your problems that you need to tape up for small cuts or anything like that. So that's wrapped around here, and there's quite a bit of it. Okay, so lighter with medical tape. And if necessary, if you cut yourself and you're afraid that it might get infected, I always have some Neosporin just to rub into any kind of cuts or abrasions that I might get while I'm out. So Neosporin is always a good thing to carry with you. And a plastic bag, because you're not going to leave those wet wipes out in the desert because things take forever to decompose and you're just littering and you're ruining the environment. So, this whole leave no trace behind, or I can't remember what the name of the movement is, but if you take it out there, bring it back with you, okay? So, a Ziploc bag to put all your waste in so that you can carry it back out to the car. So that kind of takes care of those essential items. All right, moving on to sunglasses. I always carry two pairs of sunglasses with me. I have my regular ones that I walk around with all the time. These are the Oakley Wayfarers. No, sorry. These are the Oakley Holbrooks. No, Wayfarers are Ray-Bans. Fantastic glasses. They're semi-wraparound, so they do keep the sand out of my eyes. All right. If things get really bad with the wind, okay, and you need to block out all the sand, I recommend a pair of glacier glasses, and these have side protection so the sand really can't get into your eyes. Okay, so again, these are designed for mountaineering, but I find they work amazingly well out here in the desert. So an extra pair of sunglasses, like I say, these are glacier glasses. I use these when the winds are howling and sand is getting everywhere. All right. Compass, we've been over this. Don't leave home without it. This could save your life. Batteries die. GPSs don't always work. Right here, if during the day, it will get up to 50 degrees. If you're out here in the summer, even just for a short walk, your phone will die. Okay, the phones, electronics just can't take this kind of heat. Even at 40 degrees, you can't always depend on your GPS to help you navigate. So Simplicity is best in the desert. Get a simple but a high quality compass, and please learn how to use it. All right. So, headlamp, this needs no explanation. Bring a headlamp with you. When the sun goes down here, it gets dark really quickly. Okay, the sun will be out. It'll set. It'll set. It'll set, and then all of a sudden it'll be pitch black, especially if there's no moon. So, always have your headlamp with you and have it handy. You know, there's lots of manufacturers out there. This is Petzl, one of the great companies that makes headlamps. But like I say, there's lots of other companies that make headlamps. All right. We talked about this just recently. A fixed blade knife, so there's no hinge in there for sand to get into and make it malfunction. So I like a small fixed blade knife when I'm out in the desert. Again, sand is, you're trying to minimize the places where sand can get into, so having a classic folding knife that has a hinge and sand's going to get in there and gum up the works. Along with that, I've paired my fixed blade knife with this ultra small, ultra lightweight Leatherman Micra, and I know what you're saying. Again, this is a hinged item. It's got a lot of hinges on it for the products, but it's so small and simple that I can actually get in there and clean out the sand when necessary. And like I say, I find that between these two items, I can pretty much solve all my cutting or minor repair needs. So, and it's ultra lightweight. Right. So, a cloth, just a normal face cloth. Okay, have that with you, because you're going to need, before you get in your tent, after you take off your shoes, you're going to need to wipe your feet off, get the sand off your feet, get the sand off your hands. Okay, so just a simple, face cloth, nothing expensive about that, just something that you can, wipe off your hands and your feet before you get into your tent. I'm not going to go through all this. These are kind of my emergency food supplies. I have electrolytes, lots of different electrolytes, different flavors. I have a protein bar, an energy bar. I have energy chews. Again, you really need to take in consideration what you're taking out into the desert and if it's going to take a lot of water to digest. So I like these. These are from, I believe it's a Czech company called Chimpanzee. These are energy chews. They're like gummies, okay, but they don't take a lot of water to digest, and that's something you always have to keep in mind when you're out in the desert. How much water do you have to use to get kind of energy bars, protein bars into your system? So think about that. These are easily digestible and don't take a lot of water, so I like those. All right. Gloves. If you find that you need to walk around and dig something in the sand, dig a hole in the sand for your personal business, or if you are going to be snapping off twigs of the scrub brushes that live on, I would strongly recommend a pair of gloves, because there are biting insects, there are stinging arachnids out here. So, scorpions, that's something you don't want to have it now. I don't know how effective these gloves would be against a scorpion sting, but it gives me peace of mind if I have to touch any kind of brush or dig in the sand. You never know what's in there. Obviously, it's snake bite. This was not going to prevent it, but just gives you a little added protection while out digging in the sand. So those are kind of the, like you say, bare minimum things that I carry with me. Now there's some specialty items that I also have with me. So I want to see things out in the desert. It's my dream to see the Arabian oryx in the wild. Now you can go to many parks or desert preserve areas where you can see them, but they're pretty much in captivity, them and the gazelles. So, I always want to see what's out there. And so, a pair of binoculars, they're worth the wait. definitely, because you don't know what you're gonna encounter out there. There's all kinds of unusual animals out there that you won't be able to get close to. So if you want to have a good experience, take a pair of binoculars with you. All right. Other weird things that I carry, carabiners. I'd like to carry carabiners with me just because I come from a mountaineering and climbing background, and I'm used to carrying carabiners. I find that I can clip things to the tent if there's a high wind, clip them to my trekking poles, things like that. They're multifunctional device. Now I would recommend that you do not buy cheap carabiners. Go out and buy a full strength climbing carabiner. They're rated to 20 to 22 kilonewtons. They make them so small these days and so light. There is zero reason not to have a full strength carabiner. Edelrid, Metolius, I think this one is only 11 grams, or so, you know, it could save your life if you need to weight it, if you need to put your body weight on it, but just buy a full strength carabiner. Lastly, some really specialized items that I carry out into the desert, and you may think that's nuts. All right, so this is a chopping board that I bought, a very inexpensive chopping board, but it gives me a flat, clean surface to put sensitive items, delicate items on. So, for example, if I need to take off my watch, I can set my watch on there. If I need my sunglasses, I can put my sunglasses on there. So this gives me a nice, clean, sand-free surface. All right, so I like to carry just anything that will, get anything that's delicate off of the sand. Now, I've had an interesting experience that when you're out in the desert and you put something down on the sand is hot. So you're essentially heating up whatever you put down on the sand. So for example, not thinking clearly, I put my water bottles out in the sand, and the sand was re-radiating up to 40 degrees centigrade heat. And so I was just, heating up my drinking water. So I find that if I put my water bottles onto this, it prevents them from capturing the heat from the sand. All right, so water bottles, I've talked to you about this before. Please do not take plastic water bottles out into the desert. You're essentially poisoning yourself. The heating up of the plastic, I can't give you the exact chemistry, but I know that as you heat up plastic, you're contaminating your water. Plus, you're changing the taste of the water, and it just is not nice. So please just go out and get a stainless steel or a titanium water bottle. They're lightweight, they're reusable. You'll have these forever. Again, this is the SIG stainless steel water bottle. It's 1 liter, keeping in mind that 1 liter of water weighs 1 kilogram, so 2.2 pounds. I'm usually carrying a minimum of 3 to 4 liters. If I'm just out for a day hike, maybe I'll just take 2 liters or 2.5 liters. Okay, but most of your weight in your pack is going to be water. There is no water out there in the desert. There's no springs for you to fill up on or anything like that. So everything you have to carry yourself. So you're looking at, how do you say, 5, 6 kilos of water, so 10 pounds of water. And so everything else you carry should be lightweight. Right? So keep that in mind when buying products for carrying out in the desert. The last item that is kind of a specialty item that I carry is a brush. And the motto of this channel is sand is your nemesis. Sand wants to get into everything. Sand wants to ruin your trip. So you need a brush. You need to clean off everything. So even when I put my chopping board down to insulate, I have to brush the sand off of it. So carry a small brush. When you take down your tent, okay, when you start packing up everything back into your pack, you just give it a quick brush to get that extra sand off of it. So everything I have here, I take in consideration what sand's going to do to it. All right. Now, anything else unusual? people, for sun protection, I've talked about this before. I'm always wearing the traditional Arabian headdress, the kafir, the shwag. I find this suits me very well. However, there are people that don't like to wear things like this. They would rather wear a baseball cap. So, I have baseball caps. I don't usually take them, but I know some people like to wear them at the end of the day while you're sitting around. I don't think this is very functional, especially in high winds and for, wrapping your face and things like that. But, you know, I'll throw this in the pack, especially if I'm having a bad hair day or something like that. So I do carry a baseball cap around occasionally, but it's not something that I find necessary. So that's it. This is my minimum kit that I carry out into the desert. If you find something that I have here doesn't look right, or you question why I carry it, drop me a line. If you carry different things out of the desert, I'd love to know what you carry. I always want to learn from you also, so drop me a line. Just looking around, I think that covers everything. Keep on adventuring, my friends. Be safe.